Just fed Nipsey 2 roaches. Didn't even press record on the camera. Still hungry, Nips? Now that I got the camera on, you aren't gonna eat. Thought I was filming him the whole time. I didn't even hit him. I have a tendency to do that. No? You done? Dessert. Here's a fat. All right, Nips, you ready to give your 10 bearded dragon tips? Alright, today we're going to touch on 10 tips for the new bearded dragon owner. And, they're basically random, but I think they're important. But we are going to start out with, the first tip, which is research is key. And I start out with this because, this really leads into most any other tip that could be given. And you know what? If you can understand this, then you get the Bedroom Beardies approval to move on. So, isn't that right, Nipsey? Well, all jokes aside, research is important. It's important beforehand. It's important when you first get your bearded dragon, and it's important, your research is going to be ongoing. It's not probably going to be as heavy after you build after you gain a routine of your own, and as time passes. But it's still good to check over what you're doing at times and sort of maybe oppose your own beliefs. You know what I mean? Because sometimes we've changed things that we've done over time since we've had Nipsey. And but anyway, yeah, research is key. Tip 2. The setup is going to be the most costly period of time. Now, costs are going to be ongoing. You're going to have food. You're going to have to continue to buy lights, say when they burn out, or UVBs, or the UVB light needs to be replaced. Things like that. Now, tip 3, prepare for potential emergencies. And these can be, there's tons of things you can do to prepare for different, events or occurrences or however you want to put it. But, take for instance, if you have a power outage, they still need their heat. Hopefully it'll only be no more than a few hours. If that's the case, they have those heating packs that, they don't have to be plugged in or anything. They last for, they'll get your bearded dragon through a power outage, at least a short one. If you tend to get struck with a lot of power outages and they tend to last for long periods of time, maybe you have to look into other sources, maybe a generator or something like that. I mean, we don't experience that, but I still think it'd probably be good for us to get that. Other little occurrences. Another example would be, we've had to replace our basking light because it's blown out. So sometimes, it's one of those things you need to get on. So, if you can, buy a backup. If not, just make sure that you can quickly replace that. And there's tons of other things, which will go back to number 1. Do your research, and you'll gain that for your, within your own routine. So, or at least you'll be set up for when things, may occur. Tip number 4: locate your nearest vets. When you get your bearded dragon, I'd say do this before you get your bearded dragon. Locate, all your nearest vets. Some this may be hard. Some that don't have exotic pet, veterinarians. It would be good to try to find an exotic pet veterinarian over a veterinarian that doesn't typically deal with exotic animals, because dealing with the care of a bearded dragon is can be frustrating because it's hard to trust different advice. So you want to make sure that whoever's giving you the advice is going off of first-hand experience. Now, tip number 5, I would say have a list of can and cannot eats. And what I mean is, meats and veggies that they can and cannot eat. And 2, there's certain foods that they can eat, just not as often as others. You have, like, for instance, roaches and crickets for their meats. That can be a staple diet. Now, superworms, that's more of an occasion. Now, tip number 6, think ahead. And this is important because owning a dragon is a long-term commitment. Now, a couple examples would be, say you're someone who goes on vacation a lot. You're either going to have to find someone to properly care for your bearded dragon when you're gone, or you're going to have to learn how to travel with your beardie. And there's that other option that maybe a bearded dragon's not the best pet for you if say, vacations are a frequent thing. I know they're cool, but sometimes you got to think about the bearded dragon first. Not sometimes, all the time. It's not their decision that they come into our care. It's ours. So. And tip number 7, pay attention to your bearded dragon's behavior patterns. The consistencies within your routine, you and your bearded dragon's daily routine, as well as you paying attention to the consistencies within their behavior will help you, indicate when maybe your bearded dragon isn't feeling well or something's not right. Where you going, Nips? Tip number 8, take the time to bond with your dragon. Get close, have them outside of the cage. For instance, when this video's, he was already out earlier, but when this video's over, I'm gonna take him out. This isn't necessarily gonna be bonding. He just needs to run around. But before I turned the camera on, he was back and forth. He kind of settled down when I fed him some roaches and mealworms. So I wanted him to get some heat, and I wanted him to get that digested. So before he come out and run around. So that was about an hour ago. But take time to bond with your dragon. That's how you guys become buddies, for real. When you first get your bearded dragon, it's not going to necessarily be tame. Nipsey pretty much was tame, but he was also 5 months old when we had gotten him, or at least around that. That's what the pet store had told us. And so we're just going by that just as a basis. But when you get them and they're very young, more than likely, they're not going to be real tame. There's exceptions to that rule, but like I said, most times they won't. Now, spending time with your dragon and handling them and being patient, that's it's not like we didn't have to be patient. Granted, Nipsey was not all over the place and too jumpy, but he still was. We were new and the environment was new, and they they're creatures of habit just like us, but they are more singularly focused, so they can be upset by the slightest, change of, they can get real stressed out by the slightest changes. Tip number 9. And this one, I was trying to get him and I couldn't, so Nipsey might take me as a liar. So I'm going to throw this in here as, really, this is just straight up opinion. And there are people who use the infrared lights for the bearded dragon's tanks. And but in saying that, tip number 9, bearded dragons, in my opinion, can see infrared light. The reason I say that, we use a temp gun and it uses an infrared light, sort of like a laser pointer. And Nipsey's clearly shown that he can see that when we shine it. I'll try to do it for you if he may or may not react. But in saying that, do with that information what you will. Like I said, there's a lot of people that use it. I know that when I'm sleeping, I like the lights out. And that's basically what they say is, the light will, well, they say, I've heard that infrared can damage their eyes. I don't know for sure. But I do know that, like I said, I like it dark when I sleep, and I wouldn't want it to interrupt them. We use a heat emitter, and that works just fine. There's no light, and he still gets his heat. So that makes me at least sleep better at night. That makes my wife sleep better at night, and Nipsey seems to sleep better at night. But you know, that's one of those things. Going back to number 2, where getting started is the most costly. That was something that at first we actually did buy. We bought an infrared light. What you over there talking about, huh? What you over there talking about, baby? But yeah, we actually bought an infrared light and ended up taking it back. I think we used it for the first couple nights and decided, you know, and we just decided that we weren't going to use it anymore. And you know, we started keeping our room actually at we didn't have the heat emitter at first. We started just keeping our room at a ridiculous temp. Were you showing off, babe? You showing off? He's been showing off lately a lot. His beard's been turning black. He's been bobbing his head. And we think he's just maturing into that age, kind of going through that change. And it's funny, when Kim's in the room, he'll bob his head a lot more and like running around back and forth. I mean, just all he'll be pushing all his plants out the way and all this. But yeah, we think our little man's going through the change. So let's close this out with tip number 10. Bearded dragons, they're from desert lands of Australia, not desert lands of Arabia or somewhere like that. So if you're thinking of Aladdin when you're thinking of deserts, you know what I'm saying? That's not the type of desert that they come from. You know, that area is, you know, there's soil, there's leaves, there's rocks, sort of like the ground in a forest, you know. And in saying that, I did want to say that sand was not their ancestors' natural substrate. The soilish, it will be like soil, leaves, and rocky sort of area. I know that some people do use sand. Like I will say with most things, I'm not knocking those who do. It's just something that we here at Bedroom Beardies don't do, and we don't recommend. We just honestly believe that, you know, there's too many options out there that are less, you know, cause less potential harm for the bearded dragon than to go with something where if he, you know, licks at the ground and picks up some of that, you know, that's how easy it could cause impaction. We just feel that that's unnecessary. But we will say that when we see that, we just trust that those who use it have taken the appropriate precautions. Since we're not experts, since we have never used sand, so really can't comment too much on it, we just hope that there, you know, is an effective way to do it, and that's what's being practiced. Enough of that. Now we want to thank you for joining us. Nipsey, want to thank your people. You're the messiest eater. So we hope that you enjoyed those 10 tips. We were just keeping it basic. You know, more things just to become aware of. Each of them individually require a little bit more research in and of themselves. But yeah, we just wanted to keep it basic in order to just make aware those certain things that need more individual attention. I hope that makes sense. So, say bye, Nips. To stay up to date with our latest videos, make sure to subscribe to the Bedroom Beardies YouTube channel by clicking our logo now in the bottom right corner of this video. Thank you, you're awesome, and we greatly appreciate you. Blessings from us here at Bedroom Beardies. Well, somebody's antsy to get out. Jeez. Okay. Okay. You alright?